College football is finally back. Arizona State getting its season started against Southern Utah this Thursday, 7 o'clock at the newly named Mountain America Stadium. Nick Borgia, Devil's Digest, coming at you alongside our publisher, Hode Urbino. And Hode, a lot of the time when we talk about these kind of early season games, season openers against a weaker FCS opponent, it can kind of be considered a no-gain kind of game. Not a whole lot to be taken away from it, but with everything that's gone on this season for ASU, new coach, so many new staff members, new players, along with the news from Sunday about the bowl ban, do you feel this game has a little bit more meaning compared to other games like this in the past?
Yeah, absolutely, Nick. I think that even if the bowl ban was not in place, the self-imposed bowl ban, that is, that ASU did announce on Sunday morning, I still think that just because of all the elements that you mentioned, a new coach, an absolute massive roster overhaul, this is not just a glorified scrimmage, as some would call it. I mean, there really is a lot of things for ASU to still figure out. I think they generally do like where they stand at the end of their preseason preparation, but until the rubber meets the road and you're actually playing games that count in the standings, then you're not going to really know what exactly you are working with. And you're right. I mean, that whole aspect of the self-imposed bowl ban, that is going to be just an ongoing challenge for Arizona State, especially, as you mentioned, for a first-year head coach with a roster with so many new players. You really don't know how exactly this all is going to come together. You obviously hope that with an FCS opponent in a game that you're going to be more heavily favored with than any other contest of the season, that this really just won't matter. But it also is anyone's guess on how the team is going to react. I know that Kenny Dillingham, after Sunday's practice, talked about his team looking somewhat shook up, and he obviously wasn't really too happy starting his day at 6:30 in the morning, some couple hours before practice, getting that news about ASU's self-imposed bowl ban. So I'm really curious to see how this team does come together. I know that a lot of people can look at an ASU blowout win as, like you said, an absolutely no-win situation where maybe you're really not able to glean much from what the Sun Devils have in terms of talent level, in terms of an upgrade in the coaching staff. But I do think with the news still going to be pretty fresh 4 days later in the season opener with the self-imposed bowl ban, that actually a blowout win is going to say a lot about this team and how they're able to appropriately put aside factors that they're not able to control.
All right, well, now let's look at the offense. 4 years ago, it was Jaden Daniels who made history for ASU as the first ever true freshman to start the season opener for the Sun Devils. This time around, the second man to ever do it, Jaden Rashada, who, funny enough, also wears number 5. But along from that quarterback aspect, there's a lot of other elements of this offense that I think are worth talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you have to look at how the offensive line is settling. I think more and more we're seeing 4 out of the 5 positions pretty entrenched in stone, but maybe the most important position, especially when you think about a true freshman quarterback, is left tackle, where you have Isaiah Glass, the returning starter from last year, and Bram Walden, the Oregon transfer, somebody who like Glass did prep locally here in the Valley, still battling for that starting left tackle role. So I'm curious to see how both of them do play in that position, because I think that a team like Southern Utah definitely allows Arizona State the luxury to rotate them a little more frequently than any other contest during the season. You know, you look at running back, and I think it's pretty much established with Cam Scatabo, the Sacramento State transfer, who ever since spring practice has really, I think, wowed everybody with his running ability. He's obviously coming into trying to fill, huge shoes left by Xavier Valladay. But it looks like that Arizona State did get another quality newcomer like they did with Valladay this time last year. And you look at DeCarlos Brooks, another newcomer, another transfer, this time from Cal, being that 1-2 punch, if you will, at running back. But what happens beyond those two? I think there's a lot of players that are vying for positions, and you're curious to see if the running back by committee approach that the Arizona State coaches have talked a lot about in the last few years finally does come to fruition. And I think, not to belabor the point, but against such a weak opponent like Southern Utah, you definitely have a golden opportunity to play a lot of running backs, and you want to see what they can bring to the table on game day. Tight ends, I think they're pretty much set. I think this is the strongest unit in the entire Pac-12. Jalen Conyers, Messiah Swinson, Bryce Pierre, definitely looking for them to be very, very active in the passing game. It remains to be seen if the coaches don't crack the the playbook all that wide open, so maybe we don't see that many exotic plays from that position. But I think that overall, it's definitely a position that's going to be very intriguing. And obviously, wide receiver, you got Elijah Badger, the leading returning wide receiver from last year. Xavier Guillory, another transfer that's going to be a starter from Idaho State this time at wide receiver, and Melquan Stovall, another transfer, wide receiver in the slot position. So I think there's a lot of new faces that really come to the forefront. You have proven pieces like Elijah Badger, like Jalen Conyers, but how does, going back to your first point, Jaden Rashada, a true freshman quarterback in his first ever start, how does he react? And this, comes back to your earlier point. Okay, it's only Southern Utah. Even if Rashada puts up a great game, how much can he really take away from that? But I think when you're a true freshman quarterback, you do expect a lot of hiccups. You do expect a lot of yips to take place in that first ever start. So if Jaden Rashada can really turn in a solid performance at Southern Utah, that is one aspect that I personally would not really gloss over, because for a true freshman, no matter who the opponent is, to play very well in his first start, that is something I think is going to be a huge statement of confidence for this ASU offense for the rest of the year.
And defensively, this is a unit with a lot of room for improvement if we're looking back to the 2022 season. The bar is pretty low. So it's a unit that the whole team's going to have to rely on, especially once conference play gets started. So what do you think Kenny Dillingham's looking for from that aspect in this game?
Yeah, I think that it's pretty clear that the goal to improve the pass rush of this ASU defense, and adding a plethora of really talented edge players, that's something that any game has to showcase itself against Southern Utah. And if that aspect really comes to fruition, I think you just have that positive domino effect happening from there on out. So I'm looking for a returning starter as BJ Green, as well as an Oklahoma transfer Clayton Smith, Texas transfer Prince Dorba, Michael Matus, obviously a returning player who was out all of last year due to an ACL tear. Looking for those players first and foremost to really generate and improve pass rush for Arizona State. We talked, I think even back in the spring, Nick, about the issues in the interior of the defensive line, and we're really not sure where things stand right now as preseason practices are coming quickly to an end. We know that Deshaun Mallory, the defensive tackle transfer from Michigan State, has definitely been a fall camp standout. But what happens beyond him in the depth chart, that's something remains to be seen. If you remember, Nick, last year ASU didn't have that many issues with the pass defense, even though their number of sacks wasn't all that great, just because teams were very content to run the ball against them. Go back for the haunting memories of games like UCLA, Arizona, games where that interior of the defensive line absolutely got gashed. So to me, that's even the bigger story of this defensive line. How well does the interior defensive line do? And also right behind them, the linebackers. You got Trevion Brown, a transfer from Washington State. You got Will Schaefer, a returning player from last year. Can they really improve the overall play of the linebackers, especially against the run? When you look at the secondary, I think that it really is a very, very solid and a deep unit. It all starts obviously with Ro Torrance, the returning cornerback, Jordan Clark, who this year is going to be the starting nickelback. And then you got guys like D Ford, a transfer from Austin Peay. His fellow Austin Peay teammate Shamari Simmons, who's going to play at safety. You got a returning starter in Chris Edmonds at safety. You got Ed Woods, who started a lot of games last year at cornerback. So I think the secondary is really a deep unit, just in the vacuum, but also a unit that can really benefit the most if that pass rush for ASU plays the level I'm expecting them to. As much as we talk about this game, again, being a no-win situation, Nick, this is, again, the defense definitely has to dominate. And with so many new faces and obviously a new scheme, a new coordinator in Brian Ward, I would not dismiss the fact that ASU is able to hold Southern Utah to a very low number of points, because, again, that's going to show progress in this defense. And regardless of the opponent, it's something that I think is very important for a measure of confidence, just like we talked about the ASU offense, really to display starting in week one, that can really help you that much more for the rest of the 2023 season.
So yeah, ASU heading into this contest is a pretty heavy favorite, so no doubt one of the easier predictions that you're going to make all season long, probably one of the easiest ones. So with that, are there any other elements that that can really give this team confidence as they go through this game?
Yeah, I just think that's really important for this team to obviously start really fast. I mean, we saw just the other day USC against San Jose State, and a game that was pretty close at halftime, and maybe second half USC was stopped playing with their food, as they say, and really put the pedal to the metal and blew out San Jose State. And maybe USC is a team that can afford that, but I don't think ASU is really a team that can afford that, no matter who the opponent is. So even with all the aspects that we talked about, the newness of this team, an element that really cannot be overstated at this point, can everything come together really, really quickly and really put this game out of reach at halftime? I think that would be a dream scenario for Kenny Dillingham. If that's the case, he can play backup quarterback at Trent Bourget maybe for an entire half to make sure that he gets a lot of reps under his belt in case they are needed down the road. But really, when you just look at the sheer talent and the upgrade of talent that we see both on offense and defense from last year, there's no reason to think that this game is not going to be the blowout that all of us expecting it to be. I'm expecting ASU to win by the score of 45-13.
45-13. Got it, Hode. Well, for all of your 2023 coverage surrounding Arizona State football, you know where to be. Keep it locked in at DevilsDigest.com. Also, do yourself a solid. Drop a follow on Twitter at Devils Digest. For Hode Urbino, I'm Nick Borges. On behalf of the rest of our staff at Devils Digest, we appreciate you tuning in. We'll see you at Mountain America Stadium on Thursday.